Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's morning study call. We're continuing on with our study of Your Invisible Power by Genevieve Behrend. As you recall from yesterday, we did chapters 13 and 14. They were a little bit smaller chapters. We talked about two basic ideas in those two chapters of that as you increase your faith, it becomes kind of like it helps you along. As you increase your faith, you can do greater things, and it kind of becomes this snowball effect. And then chapter 14 was how to make nature respond to you. And it's this idea that if there is this universal spirit that flows through everything, and it's a creative substance which we can impress upon it with our mind, and as it's permeating, penetrating everything, and even permeating and penetrating you, that as you create a thought in this substance, you can also bring all of creation into helping you create your desire, because this spirit, this power, this substance is in everything, and it can move all of nature to help you in your desire. And so we want to be aware of this, and we want to use these things to help us increase that faith, to know that if we have that idea in our mind, that it is possible, that working with this power, this substance, that we can move mountains. There's, a lot of idea, I think, sometimes where we think, oh, I can't do this because, such and such wouldn't work my way, or, nature wouldn't, nature doesn't work that way, or, these kinds of things. And so we want to be increasing our faith so that we can come to the understanding that if we have the idea, that it is possible. And we need to only put that thought into this creative substance and then let it do its work. Let it do what it's going to do to then bring you the opportunities that you can then take advantage of to bring into reality the thoughts and the vision that you have in your mind. All right, let's jump into chapter 15. Faith with Works, What It Has Accomplished. It is said of Tyson, the great Australian millionaire, that the suggestion to make the desert land of Australia blossom as the rose came to him from a modest little Australian violet while he was working as a bushman for something like 3 shillings a day. He used to find these friendly little violets growing in certain places in the woods, and something in the flower touched something akin to itself in the mind of Tyson. And he would sit on the side of his bunk at night and wonder how flowers and vegetable life could be given an opportunity to express itself in the desert land of Australia. Now, I think this story is interesting in the fact that sometimes nature uses us to get what it needs. So as we go through this story, you'll find how he made it possible for Australia to blossom in at least the area that he was around, and it allowed him to become a millionaire. So sometimes, or you remember I talked about this idea before, that everything is for advancement, everything is for growth. And so sometimes nature can impress upon us different ideas, just as this little flower was kind of communicating this idea to him to create an environment to where more flowers, more vegetation could grow. And so oftentimes when these kinds of things happen, we don't want to resist them and say, and it's not kind of the idea that we're being used in the sense of we're being subjected and enslaved, but it's kind of like the idea that we get to enter into this magical process of creating something great. And that if we enter into that process, what we will find is that it's for our best benefit. Because remember, nature and this creative power, this intelligence behind all of everything, it's creating advancement in everything as it goes along. And so it wouldn't use you to do its purposes, to accomplish its goals, if it wasn't going to be for your benefit, if it wasn't going to inspire and uplift you and bring to you, all the goodness of the earth, that it would choose somebody else. And so you never need to worry when you get maybe this inspiration, this feeling to go and do something that, it's not something that's going to be beneficial to you, because it is going to be beneficial to you. That spirit, that power, that substance, it's working in and through everything, and it's working through you, is working towards everybody's best good. No doubt he realized that it would take a long time to save enough money to put irrigating ditches in the desert lands, but his thought and feeling were sure it could be accomplished, and if it could be done, he could do it. If there was a power within himself that was able to capture the idea, then there must be a responsive power within the idea itself that could bring itself into practical physical manifestation. Excuse me. He resolutely put aside all questions as to the specific ways and means which would be employed in bringing his desire into physical manifestation, and simply kept his thought centered upon the idea of making fences and seeing flowers and grass where none existed. And remember, when we create this manifestation in our mind, when we're visualizing what it is, we don't want to focus on how we think that it's going to be accomplished, the steps in between. What we want to do is we want to focus on the end result. And then we want to let God, nature, the universe, whatever you want to call it, work with this spirit, this power, this substance that penetrates everything to do all of the steps in between. And yes, we'll take part in the steps in between to the fulfillment of that goal, to the fulfillment of that vision that we have in our mind. But we want to take advantage of what it sends to us, not try to tell it how to do its work. It's kind of the idea of that when men make plans, then God laughs. When we try to tell God how to do his work, we can only see this little part of the experience, this physical experience that we're having, but God or the universe or this intelligence that is behind everything can see all of it. And so because it can see all of it, it can orchestrate things for the benefit of all. And so the thing that we think in our mind of, the steps along the way that need to happen may not be the best course to follow. And so we want to enter into that process with this creative power instead of telling this creative power how to do its job. Since the responsiveness of reproductive creative power is not limited to any local condition of mind, his habitual meditation and mental pictures set his ideas free to roam in an infinitude and attract to themselves other ideas of a kindred nature. Therefore, it was not necessary for Tyson to wait and see his ideas and desires fulfilled until he had saved from his 3 shillings a day enough money to irrigate the land. For his ideas found other ideas in the financial world which were attuned in sympathy with themselves, and doors of finance were quickly opened. All charitable institutions are maintained upon the principle of the responsiveness of life. If this were not true, no one could care to give, simply because another needed. The law of demand and supply, cause and effect, can never be broken. Ideas attract to themselves kindred ideas. Sometimes they come from a flower, a book, or out of the invisible. You are sitting or walking, intent upon an idea not quite complete as to the ways and means of fulfillment, and behold, along comes another idea. For no one can tell where and finds friendly lodging with your idea, one idea attracting another, and so on until your desires are physical facts. So again, she's expressing this idea that I was expressing just a moment ago, that we don't want to tell this spirit, this power, this source how to do its job. We have an idea in our mind, and that's not a bad thing, but we don't want to get fixated on that's the way that it needs to happen, because as she said, you are sitting or walking intent upon an idea not quite complete as to the ways and means of fulfillment, and behold, along comes another idea, for no one can tell where, and finds friendly lodging with your idea. So we have this, what we want to create, and the steps along the way will come to us either as inspiration, or somebody will come to us, or something will happen in our environment to signal to us a different thing for us to be able to engage in and do. All these things will come to us. You may feel the necessity for an improvement in your finances and wonder how this increase is to be brought about, when there seems suddenly to come from within the idea that everything had its birth in thought, even money, and your thoughts turn their course. You simply hold to the statement or affirmation that the best and all there is yours. Since you are able to capture ideas from the infinite through the instrument of your intuition, You let your mind rest upon that thought, knowing full well that this very thought will respond to itself. Your inhibition of the thought of doubt and feeling of anxiety enables the reassuring ideas to establish themselves and attract to themselves "I can" and "I will," which gradually grows into physical form of the desire in mind. So there's two ideas really that she's expressing here, is that we want to hold in our mind the idea of the end result of what it is that we want, and allow these ideas to be attracted to us of ways that it can be accomplished. And then we inhibit the ideas in our mind of the "I can'ts," or "this won't work," or "that's not possible." But we just want to hold to the idea that it is possible, and we will attract to us ways of that it can and that it will. And so just hold those ideas in your mind. Now, if you're in a state where you're wanting to maybe create financial well-being in your life, maybe you're struggling financially, a good idea is to try to do the best that you can financially as far as providing for yourself and your family. Do the very best that you can, because we don't want to sit back and do nothing. We want to do what we can where we are at. So if you have a job, even if it's something that you don't like, do the very best at that job, and and then you hold in your mind what it is that you want, that change, whether it's a better job, whether it's a better income, whether it's to move to a new place, whatever it is that you want, or maybe you want to even change what it is that you're doing and go to do something completely different. You want to hold in your mind that vision, do the things right now, right in front of you to keep moving forward, and then the way will be provided. The way will show up for you to continue on in another course. And when those things come, you take advantage of them, you learn and adapt and grow into that new opportunity. And then if that doesn't lead you all the way there, continue to work in that place where you have just grown into. And then the next step will make itself known to you. You learn and adapt and grow into that next opportunity, and on and on and on until you eventually get to your goal. Now, you may need to only advance yourself just a little, so the very first opportunity that comes along may be the thing that gives you what you want. But there may be a lot more growth in you that you need to have to get towards what it is that you want. And so there might be multiple steps and many things along the way that you need to do to grow. Because as I said, this spirit, this power, this substance isn't so much concerned about the physical things, the day-to-day things that we get, but it's concerned about our own personal growth and the growth of the all existence around us. And so as we go along, it wants to bring us up. And it also doesn't want to put us in a position where the thing that comes into our life is going to be to our detriment. Because if you ever go and study the lives of people that like won the lottery or different kinds of things like that, and even they've done interviews with these people, and most of the people talk about how it was the worst thing that ever happened to them, because the idea is that they weren't ready. You know, a lot of these people that won the lottery weren't in a very good financial state to begin with. They didn't know how to use finances. They won the lottery, and then all of a sudden they were in a situation and they had all these resources that they didn't know how to handle, that they didn't know how to use. A lot of times it destroyed their families, that it destroyed themselves personally, because now that they had all these resources, and they had maybe bad habits or they had tendencies for addictive behavior, that now they had the resources to engage in all the addictive behavior that they wanted. And so this spirit, this power, this substance doesn't want to take us into a situation of failure. It wants to take us to where the opportunity that we're envisioning in our mind, this vision, that when it comes to us, that we're able to meet it on the same level, that we're equal to it, and we can use the resources. If it's something resource-wise that we're thinking in our mind, like money, or a house, or different kinds of things like that, or if it's just something that we want to be, a thing that we want to do, that we are able to meet that same thing on its same level without it destroying us. In the conscious use of the universal power to reproduce your desires in physical form, 3 facts should be borne in mind. First, all space is filled with the creative power. And this is, we've been talking about that idea throughout this book, that there's this creative power that permeates and penetrates everything, that there isn't a space and a time where this does not exist. Second, this creative power is amenable to suggestion. So we've talked about this idea too, that this spirit, this power that penetrates and fills the immensity of space, is amenable to suggestion, that it can be impressed upon, that we can form it. Remember the idea of like the pipe, that water flowing through the pipe takes the shape of it. The thoughts that you hold in your mind form the mold through which this creative power moves through and becomes in the outer world. And third, it can only work by deductive methods. So the idea of, so there's inductive and deductive. And so we employ both of these kinds of ideas in our mind. Our conscious mind is mostly inductive, meaning that it can reason, that it can analyze, that it can reject or accept ideas. Our subconscious mind is deductive in nature, meaning that it goes based off of the pre-programmed ideas that have been placed in it before, and it doesn't have the ability to reject or accept, or it doesn't have the ability to reject things. It only has the ability to accept what is turned over to it. So this spirit, this power, this substance, although it's intelligent, it doesn't have the ability to reject an idea that you put into it. So if you're putting into it something negative, it doesn't have the ability to reject that. And because you're a creative center, it will go out and create that thing. And so we want to be conscious of what it is that we're holding in our mind, so that then we can create something that we actually want out in our outer environment, something that will be for our benefit and growth. As Troward tells us, this last is an exceedingly important point, for it implies that the action of the ever-present creative power is in no way limited by precedent. It works according to the essence of the spirit of the principle. In other words, this universal power takes its creative direction from the word you give it. Once man realizes this great truth, it becomes the most important of all his consideration with what character this sensitive reproductive power is invested. It is the unvarying law of this creative life principle that, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you realize the truth that the only creative power can be to you only what you feel and think it to be, it is willing and able to meet your demands. So again, talking about this idea that if we can catch on to this idea that this creative power creates whatever it is that we hold in our mind, then we can do anything that we desire. We can do anything that we hold in our mind. We can create anything that we hold in our mind. And the more that you can catch on to that idea, that you can believe that that is true, the more that this idea can work through you. Because if you have doubts and fears, those are really just faith in the opposite direction. If you fear that something isn't going to happen, then that's a belief that something won't happen. That's faith in the opposite direction. And so we want to destroy or put away or limit or remove these fears that are within us, so that all that we are left with is faith towards the positive, faith in what it is that we want, and that these things can be accomplished by holding in our mind and working upon this spiritual substance and power that flows through everything. Troward says, if you think your thought is powerful, then your thought is powerful. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, is the law of life, and the creative power can no more change this law than an ordinary mirror can reflect back to you a different image than the object you hold before it. So and we've talked about this idea of the mirror before, that our life, what we're being on the inside, our life is a mirror of that we see out here what is in here. And the mirror out here can't reflect to us anything other than what's in here. And so Troward is saying that same thing, that this spirit, this power, this substance can only reflect back to us what we hold in our mind. And so it's like a scientific process. It's a for sure thing, that whatever you hold in your mind, that mirror of this spirit, this power, this substance, is going to reflect back to you what it is that you're creating in your mind. As you think, so are you, does it not mean as you tell people you think, or as you would wish the world to believe you think. It means your innermost thoughts, that place where no one but you knows. None can know the Father save the Son, and no one can know the Son but the Father. So it's this idea that this spirit, this power, this substance doesn't work on what we want to be true. It doesn't work on what we believe to be true about ourselves, but it works on what we know to be true. So if we know that we are powerful, then it works. But oftentimes we want to believe that it's true, but we don't really, and we're just testing it, or we tell other people about it, but inside we don't really believe that it's true. Then those kinds of things don't have the power sufficient to actually create upon that substance that flows through us. We have to know these things for a surety. And we've talked in this book about creating that faith and the ways to be able to create it. A lot of times we have to start small, or start with small things and build our way up to greater and greater faith. Because right now, if you were to believe the things that you might be doing at the end of your life, you might not believe that those things are possible because you had to spend your entire life working up towards those things. Only the reproductive, creative spirit of life knows what you think until your thoughts become physical facts and manifest themselves in your body, your brain, or your affairs. Then everyone with whom you come into contact may know, because the Father, the intelligent, creative energy which heareth in secret, hears your most secret thoughts, rewards you openly, reproduces your thoughts in physical form. As you think you know, that is what you become, should be kept in the background of your mind constantly. And I'll repeat that again. As you think you know, that is what you become, should be kept in your background of your mind constantly. This is watching and praying without ceasing. And when you're not feeling quite up to par, to physically pray. So just keep holding those thoughts in your mind. Keep building those things in your subconscious and holding it into your conscious mind so that you turn it over to your subconscious, and keep reaffirming your faith that these things will come about. And then they will. There is a process. There is a gestational period, as we've talked about before. So it's not going to take physical shape in front of you out of the nothingness. But it will be created along natural lines of creation. Or if they're not natural lines for it to be created, new lines will be produced so that you can get what it is that you're envisioning in your mind. Just hold to the idea that all creation, all nature, God, the universe, are all for your good. They're wanting your good. They're wanting to bless you. They're wanting you to have the best. The only thing keeping you from that is your own personal belief here on the inside. All right, so with that idea, we'll end our study call today. That's the end of, excuse me, that's the end of chapter 15. So tomorrow we'll go on into chapter 16 and continue on with our study. We're just about to the end of the book. There are 17 chapters in this book, so we might have 2, maybe 3 more days left in our study of this book, and then we'll continue on into something else. I'm not sure what it is. I haven't decided yet what we're going to study next. If you have something that you want me to cover in these daily studies, there's some kind of book that you may have found a little bit inspiring, or maybe you don't quite understand it fully, make mention of it in the comments, and I'll look into it. If it's a book that I know and that I would recommend, we can just maybe hop right into it at some point in the future. If it's not something I'm familiar with, I'll take some time to study it and to look into it. And then if I find it valuable and something that people on this call or in the YouTube channel will find beneficial, then we'll do a study of that at that point. So anyways, go make yourselves a wonderful day, and we will see you all tomorrow on tomorrow morning's study call.